I'm Nat, and I work at Exceptional Individuals. We support people with neurodiversity, so things like dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, ADHD, all those lovely things. Oh, nice, Aisha. Good to see you. Come on, Rosanna. I know you're there.
Hello, sorry.
Yeah. I think why we decided to do some fun quizzes, even though they're only small, is that we always hear about the negatives. And not often about any kind of like positives or pop culture or how much different ways of thinking has influenced our culture and society. So that's why I put this together. We've got a little bit of science, a little bit of kind of pop culture, TV and films, and a few other things. So yeah, here we are. Question 1. Okay, so which fictional character in How I Met Your Mother was diagnosed with ADHD? Was it Barney, Graham, Yasmin, Clara Oswald? Well, if you know, if you know How I Met Your Mother, you'll probably know there's only really one character.
Yeah. I don't even know. Oh my gosh.
Oh wow, that's pretty good. So that was an easy one because it was really, if you know the show, one of those as character to get you started. And again, you've kind of got to weigh up the pros and cons. If you answer really fast, there's a chance you may get it wrong, but if you get it right, you'll get far more points. And yeah, Barney is a bit of the womanizer in the show. And he's always like zipping here, there, and everywhere. So is he a positive representation of ADHD? Maybe not, but at this stage, the more people, the better. All right, number 2. Males are almost times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than females. So is it 2 times more likely, 3 times more likely, 4 times more likely, or 5 times more likely? Nice. Yeah, very mixed. I mean, 3 times. I mean, you think about it, that is, I mean, let me move that little chat box. It's crazy. Do you guys have any idea why guys are more likely to be diagnosed?
Is it not that they present in females, like it presents a different way?
Yeah, Jill, you're absolutely right. It demonstrates itself differently, and if I'm being quite blunt about it, guys tend to misbehave more. And if you're misbehaving, you're more likely to get support. That's the simple way. I think in females, most kind of conditions are just not understood very well. It's interesting though, because we've got a predominantly female audience, but when it comes to autism, they didn't think people with autism could even be autistic and female like a few years back. So we've come a long way. Nice. DS is taken to the top. Okay, 3 or 22. The average age of an ADHD diagnosis is it before 1? Is it around 4 years old, 7, or 16? When are you likely to be told on a bit of paper that you have ADHD? Oh, no one got it right. So it is actually quite early on when people can start to recognize the characteristics and the traits. But with that in mind, if you guys have ever seen any like Louis Theroux documentaries or anything of in America when they're oversubscribing medication, there is what they would call an epidemic, and that's just people just saying ADHD. And unfortunately, what that has done is it's kind of lowered the credibility of people who actually do have it. So for me, I think you can definitely demonstrate traits, but a lot of the traits of just being a child and ADHD kind of overlap at the beginning.
That's why schools aren't allowed to test for it until after age 7.
Well done, Jill.
I'm a teacher. That's the reason I know that.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Anyway, guys, quick. What type of healthcare professional typically would not assess for ADHD? I'm not even going to read them because I can't read them. But
I don't know what the first one is.
So which one would not? Yes, I'm pretty sure that one will check if you've got like a stomach bug. The other ones can. Now, it's important to understand why. Why are there so many different types of people that can diagnose? And Unfortunately, there isn't really like a uniformed body of like official ways to diagnose. There's so many different varieties. So one person's diagnostic could be quite different from another person's because they're testing and looking for different areas, which is interesting. Jill, I'm just curious to know, what age range do you teach?
I teach primary 3 at the minute, but I have taught primary 1 to primary 7. So I think in the English system, it's year 1 to year 6.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Or like reception to year 6.
And are you just looking to learn a bit more about ADHD, or are you like a pro and just want to test your knowledge?
No, I actually have a little boy in my class who was diagnosed with ADHD when he was in primary 1, so when he was like 5. And there's a lot that's come out with it, particularly this year, and he wants to share with the class about what to do. So I just want to, I don't know, build my knowledge of it.
No, that's perfect. Definitely attend next week because we're going into like the breakdown of what a diagnosis is and what different traits make it up. Okay. So let's see. Ooh, nice. Okay, number 5. Which famous actor has ADHD? Is it Tim Allen? A bit of a random choice, I must say. Justin Timberlake, Mila Kunis, or Ashton Kutcher? Nice. Yes, Justin Timberlake is a very out and proud ADHDer, and he always struggles to kind of like keep focus, but that kind of lack of attention has allowed him to kind of be always sticking his fingers in lots of pies. He's a singer, he's a DJ, he's a producer, actor. The guy does everything, and he's always doing it in multiple times at once. So a great example of someone who has used ADHD to their advantage. Oh, Ram coming up. All right, true or false? There is a connection between increased sugar intake and ADD/ADHD development. True or false? Can sugar increase the likelihood of ADHD? It is false. People always make the assumption of, you know, kind of like sugar high, like, and ADHD because they demonstrate themselves sometimes in similar ways that there must be a link. You know, correlation doesn't equal causation. However, still best not to give your kids Cocoa Pops and stuff. Oh, yes, Ram, nice one. On a winning streak. Okay, 7. What is the name of the leading charity of, oh, sorry guys, that should be ADHD in the UK. Not dyspraxia, ADHD. Is it the ADHD CIC, the ADHD Trust, ADHD Charity, or the ADHD Foundation? Nice. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a foundation. So those guys are the leaders. The reason I put dyspraxia is there's also the Dyspraxia Foundation. Great, dyslexic, you win again. But yeah, no, they're a great organization, and they're definitely the ones I'd go to for up-to-date information and those sorts of things. Exceptional individuals, who I'm representing today, are experts in employment, but the ADHD Foundation are far more specialists when it comes down to if you're ever looking for a diagnosis and you want to get advice, particularly maybe at school age. Ooh, Rosanna, that was a sharp one. Okay, 8. Which one is not a sub-type of ADHD? And as you can see, I put a sub. Again, not going to read these. They look awfully complicated. Nice, yes. So just so you guys know, ADHD is just like an umbrella term, and there's kind of like different brackets. So ADHD inattentive is when you kind of like struggle to keep focus, but it's not about like hyperactiveness. So it could just be you're easily distracted, but you could still be very like introverted. The hyperactive one is your kind of, you know what people, when they think of ADHD, it's that one. But you can very easily be very quiet and still have ADHD. The other one is combined. How can you be combined? Well, that means you're, you know, you're fiddling, you're moving around, it's when you just combine the both. And the last one is made up. Do you know what? This is moving around a lot, this group. There's no clear winner as role models. Never mind. Symptoms of ADHD typically first appear between the ages of... So the last one was, when is it recognized? We also learned when people get diagnosed, but when are the symptoms first there? And there's a delightful picture of the Rugrats. Yes. Oh, you got it right. 3 and 6. And it's quite interesting because that's when most people end up getting diagnosed. I know myself, when I got diagnosed with a whole heap of lovely conditions, it was around like 2 and 3. But to get officially diagnosed normally happens a lot later, either because you're still waiting for the child to develop, or money, or different systems. And then you might have to get re-diagnosed post-16, depending on like where you live. 11. ADHD is on the rise. And we've got a nice motivational picture of a guy rising. Oh, you guys were quick on the buzzer there. So it is false. Now, I think this needs a little bit explaining, because when I say on the rise, people often think it's an epidemic, that all kids are getting it, that kids are more likely to get it today than they did previously. And, you know, with like TV, sugar, you know, mobile apps, you know, all of this stuff. And there is no real evidence to suggest that. This is just what people have kind of guessed. Are more people being diagnosed? Absolutely. That just means we're getting better. You know, we're getting more like doctor's appointments, more people are being qualified in order to make these diagnostics. But there is no link between actual ADHD in terms of what it is inside you becoming more prevalent. Nice, well done, Ram. Many noted celebs live with AD/ADHD, like Ryan Gosling. What film has he not appeared in? And I hope you guys can appreciate the picture I used. La La Land, The Notebook, Drive, or Deadpool. So which film did... Yes, it is Deadpool. And yeah, I know you're beating yourself up about it now, aren't you? I always get Gosling confused with Reynolds. They all look the same to me. But yeah, Ryan Gosling is another ADHDer who is very out and proud and has used it to his advantage. Personally, I think The Notebook still gets me every time. Oh, that's good. Okay, 13. What is the clinical diagnostic term for a person with ADHD but does not demonstrate hyperactiveness? Is it AD, ADD, ADHD, or ADHD-H? Now, the key word here is clinical diagnostic. So, amazingly, and I can see why you guys did this, it was a bit of a trick question. So, ADD is a common term that people use for those who do not demonstrate hyperactiveness, and until fairly recent, it was the term that was used. However, clinically, if you were to ask a doctor or a professional, the official term, regardless of whether someone is hyperactive or not hyperactive, is ADHD. So even though you might show no signs of being hyperactive, the official diagnostic you will get on your report will be ADHD. So the other one is just kind of like slang term. It's very much like when you think of Asperger's. In autism, no one diagnoses people with that anymore. It's just ASD, autism spectrum disorder. But people still colloquially use the term Asperger's because it gives people a bit more of a descriptive meaning. And if you guys have any comments or disagree with any of these questions, feel free to challenge me. I've got references galore. A lot of these things are still, debated depending on the sources and the resources you go to, and different countries, different terminologies. All right, 14. ADHD athletes are eligible for the Special Olympics. True or false? It is false. I still got real beef. Like any neurodiversity, they used to be allowed in the Special Olympics, but they got rid of us because apparently being different is an advantage in many cases. There are actually so many athletes in the regular Olympics who have ADHD, and it has shown to be a massive benefit in certain areas. I think that's the thing with ADHD. In certain scenarios, you can't lie, it's a disadvantage, but in other places, it can give you that added boost, that different way of thinking, this kind of more like innovative approach where you're able to like draw ideas out of anywhere. It very much depends on the environment and the reasonable adjustments that are in place. Ooh, DS, very good. Admittedly, you do have ADHD, so makes sense. All right, which is not a known symptom of ADHD? Now, I purposely picked rare ones, okay? So, is it rapid eye movement? That is not. Mood swings? That is not. Sleep problems or oppositional behavior? That is not. All righties. Yes, it is rapid eye movement, is not. The other ones you may not realize, but are actually connected. So there is such a thing as ADHD mood swings, where your personality is able to like rapidly change, and that is not something which people typically apply to ADHD. Sleep problems, that is another common one which is highly recognized and has been documented lots, but still not many people know about it. And oppositional behavior is just different behavior to the norm, acting as some people might call odd, but it's only odd compared to what we consider normal. Ooh, Rosanna coming up. Okay, 16. Which one is not a common comorbid condition? So when we mean that is, if you have one, you're very likely to have the other. So which one is not? Fine and gross motor difficulties, obsessive compulsive disorder, tic disorder, or vestibular neurosis? It is neurosis. Now that is, I think, more to do, is that ear or nose? Not ADHD related, but the other.
Vestibular's to do with your balance.
Balance. Nice. Thank you, Jill. You should be up.
I've literally just done a course about vestibular systems. So.
Oh, I'm guessing you're the one person who got it right.
I don't think I clicked one.
Oh, okay, you're Rosanna Dragon. Now the others, just to give you guys a bit of background, ADHD isn't, again, normally considered with like fine and motor skills, like, dyspraxia, but they're, again, heavily related. So if you have one neurodiversity, there's some reports that say you're twice as likely to have another one. So if you have ADHD, you very likely could have autism. If you've got dyslexia, there's a high probability you could also have dyspraxia. OCD is obsessive compulsion disorder. And again, that and ADHD is not an uncommon mix at all, but, can be problematic. And I think that's something you guys should realize, because when a lot of people get diagnosed or suspected, they normally only get tested for one thing. And the likelihood of them having a kind of like add-on is really high, though there might not be any official documentation. Tic disorder is kind of like Tourette's, but more, with the movement. Cool. Rosanna's, I think, got 3 in a row. No one would have known she's new to the game of neurodiversity. Okay, 17 of 22. What month is ADHD Awareness Week normally held? Jan, March, Oct, or December? It is October. So yay, happy awareness month or week or day. They're always changing, aren't they? Like, is it in a day, is it a week, or is it a month? To be fair, we should celebrate it all the time. And there's also depending on what country. So there's international awareness days, and then there's your like national awareness days. Sometimes overlap, sometimes different. I always find it a bit annoying that all the other like neurodivergent conditions, they pretty much are all in October, which makes hard work because we then have to do a day for everything. Good to space them out, you know. Okay, 18, almost there, guys. Beyonce's sister is diagnosed with ADHD. What is her name? It is Solange?
Solange.
Solange. Oh, do you know what? My pronunciation. But do you guys want to know a fun fact? I've danced with her. I was busy filming at the at her concert because I used to be in film and TV, and I was like, I had no idea who she was, and I was like, oh, hello. And then when someone told me, I was like, that's nice. I've also helped put up Blue Ivy's crib very poorly. It was that stage, and like I was like a runner, you know, like the dog's body. There's like, oh mate, shine her shoes, or like put up the crib, and like, okay. And number 19, the term DAMP, deficits in attention, motor control, and perception, is used to describe people who have signs of dyslexia and ADHD, dyspraxia and ADHD, autism and ADHD, OCD and ADHD. Yes, so DAMP is a term for those with dyspraxia and ADHD, which kind of gives you an idea that how common it can be to have a comorbid condition where one and the other join together. The way I try to think of it is that you've got symptoms of one and you've got symptoms of the other. When you join them together, you don't necessarily just get like double. Sometimes having multiple can mean then you end up getting like a third section of like different ways it characterizes itself and shows it. Ram, well done. You're on a good trot. But to overtake DS at the moment, don't know how likely it is. Yazzo, doing you know, you're getting there.
I'm not even on the leaderboard. I'm sad.
You know what? It's taking part that counts.
Yeah, whatever.
I know. Okay. ADHD is covered under the UK Equality Act. Yes or no? True or false? True.
Yes.
Woohoo! There used to be lots of different kind of acts. So, you know, the Disability Act. There was like I think sexuality, race. You know, there was loads of different acts, and then it got a bit messy. So in 2010, they thought, let's join them together, and now it's a thing. And it's great though, because it means though, whether you see ADHD as a disability, as an advantage, or as indifferent, it is officially recognized as a disability, which means that when it comes to employment and other things, you are covered, and that either in school or in the workplace, it is your job to make reasonable adjustments. Now, just quickly, what do we actually mean by reasonable? Reasonable just means that you don't have to knock down walls, you know, reinvent the entire building, or, you know, change your entire style, but maybe it could be saying things slower, or giving someone like stimulus, or for instance, allowing them to have like a fidget toy, or, you know, speak with them, find out what works for them. But if you deny them something which doesn't make a difference to anyone else's learning or work life, then that would be considered not reasonable, and you could get fined or sent to court. But it's not very likely, but it is good to know that you're covered at least. All right, we're almost there, guys. It's I want to say anyone could win, but it's not going to be easy. Though second place is all to play for. Okay, 21 or 22. You can cure ADHD through medication and counselling. True or false? False. And that is true. ADHD is for life. You're born with it, you die with it, you can't get rid of it. I don't believe you can develop it, though there are certain cases with things like dyslexia, which you can develop, but it's not the classic, you know, it's kind of similar characteristics, but not necessarily the same thing. And a lot of, when it comes to neurodivergent conditions, you know, like all the ones I've mentioned, medication isn't often prescribed, but when it comes to ADHD, it is. Though that doesn't mean it's always the right decision. I think a lot of the time people just medication all over the place, and that I don't have an opinion on whether it's good or bad. I think it really depends on the individual, but it's definitely something to do your research about first. Again, really good Louis Theroux documentaries on the both positives and negatives. Counselling, however, can be really great because it's not about curing like post-traumatic distress of growing up different. It's more about understanding how your mind works. And if you understand how your mind works, you're better able to draw out the positives from it. So rather than just tell everyone, I can't do that, I've got ADHD, it's far better to say, this is how I do things. Because of my ADHD, it means I'm able to do this in this way. All right, I'm excited. Let's see how this is going to go. Oh, Rosanna, to be honest, caught up pretty well at that end. Oh no, we got one more. Oh, still could change. Which fictional character in The Simpsons was diagnosed with ADHD? Now, this is officially diagnosed in the cartoon form. Bart, Lisa, Homer, Marge. Yes, it is. Ay caramba, Bart Simpson, Alberto. Obviously, everyone always kind of expected Bart to have ADHD, but I think, I want to say season 6 or it might be 9, I can't remember, he got diagnosed by the doctor. Now, obviously, the doctors in The Simpsons aren't great, but it is great to show that when we think of ADHD, we always think of like naughty kids or syndrome or like, you know, misbehaving. But The Simpsons also show that, you know, Bart is loved because of his cheekiness, because the fact that his mind is always darting over the place. It's that kind of difference which makes him so lovable. And for me, though some people might not think he's a great role model, I think he makes a perfect one for ADHD. All right, so in third place, Ram, Mysterious Ram, you did amazing. Second place, Rosanna, nice. And the winner is, oh dear, could it be Aisha? No?
No.
Yes, that's Divya. And we've got some.
Well done.
And guess what? We've also got runners up. Everyone's a winner.
Yay.
So that was just a bit of a quick fun quiz, guys. But before we leave, do you guys have any other questions on ADHD?
Oh, I have kind of one.
Oh, go for it.
How do you feel about it being called a disorder? Do you like resonate with that, or do you feel like it implies there is something wrong with someone with ADHD?
You know what? That's a really good point, and I don't like it, but that's a personal choice. You know, things like you know how I said they changed Asperger's in autism to be like ASD and like again disorder. I think it automatically sets up negativity. It kind of lowers the bar, and that by saying it's not a disorder, I don't think undermines the challenges that are associated with it. I think saying it's a difference that has like positives and negatives is a far more accurate representation. However, calling it a disorder makes people far more likely to act and make reasonable adjustments because they realize, oh, disorder, we should probably support someone. So yeah, my personal preference, I'm more for positive language, but I can appreciate why it is a disorder.
How would you go about knowing if you have ADHD or not? Like if you think you could possibly. I mean, through this, I didn't realize there were so many subcategories and things. So like how would you go about that?
Okay, no, that's a really good question. And as I mentioned in the quiz, there's lots of different ways to be diagnosed. There's some that are more common in Scotland, more common in England, different around the world. And if I was to give, you know, all the kind of symptoms of what they are, you're definitely going to resonate with quite a lot of them. So I don't want you going away today thinking, I definitely have it. It's a bit like when you look on a pack of a medication and you look at all the potential side effects and you're like, I've got that, I'm dying. It's not the case. So what I would do is on our website, exceptionalindividuals.com, on the neurodiversity tab, we've got like a very short, I think it's only like 19 questions, and it's like, do I have ADHD characteristics? And are you wiping the screen?
Oh, what, who, me?
Yeah.
No, I'm typing here like it's just a weird angle.
That's a sign of ADHD, easily. But yeah, so I would say do a characteristics kind of quiz first, and then take the results to a doctor, a GP, that sort of thing. Because just because you have similarities of someone who is officially diagnosed does not necessarily mean you do. But regardless of whether you've got a bit of paper that says you have it or not, I don't think it really matters. I think as long as you understand how your brain works, you're able to do the reasonable adjustments. And under the Equality Act and most employers and stuff, you don't generally need proof in order to get help and support. But yeah, your GP is your best bet. But do not be surprised if you go to your GP and they have no idea, because it's not kind of like common knowledge for all different practices. Normally what they'll do is try to rule out other things first and then get to ADHD at the end.
Right. Good to know. Thank you.
Right. Well, what I will say, guys, is that next week we've got one set called Do I Have ADHD? And what that is good is we're going through all the characteristics that make up an official diagnosis and explain to you why it connects. So it's all well and good knowing you have something or you might have something, but breaking it down. And it's also incredibly interactive, and you're all welcome. And we've already got 60 people signed up, so it'll be more of a party than today. But either way, I'm really glad you guys joined, and I will email you the link.
Cool. What fishes do you have in the background? I see fishes.
I have lots of different fish, Dory. Yeah, they're all like hot water fish. They're great. I've also got them in the fish pond. I mean, we did have more, but there was like a fish massacre, and they went on a big eating spree. We
man.
Now. No, we have some of those lovely birds. And
Hey, bird. Wow, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
there's 5. We did have 6, but one literally vanished. Never saw it. Was it eaten? Did it somehow fly away? Did it learn magic? Did it have a boggit? I don't know.
Did the other birds eat it?
It is possible. But anyway, that's a really great demonstration of ADHD right there. And on that bombshell, we'll go.
Bye.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.